Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the News Talk Bloomington Normal. If laws don't matter to the Bloomington City Council, why should they matter to you? Let's talk about it here on Conservative Cat. We're going to get to that. Plus, there's a video circulating on social media that's kind of caused some controversy. A state lawmaker is now being accused of casting a vote for an absent colleague. Okay, now this is permissible if there's certain things going on, like somebody's got to be on the House floor, they've got to be in attendance, they can't like be gone from the Capitol, and you can't vote other member switches, unless they tell you how they want to vote and unless they're present on the. I think that's a dumb rule, to be honest with you. If they're not in their chair for the vote, I feel like you shouldn't vote, right? if you're not in your chair for the vote, then you gotta get out, right? I hate the rule that allows for this kind of stuff to go on, because it's going to be abused. That privilege of allowing, your colleague or a fellow lawmaker. I hate saying colleague because they're not really working, right? They're not doing a good job working for you and for me. They're not being representative of you and I. They're there working for themselves, so they're not really working. That's why, I don't like the term colleague so much, but they're there voting for their fellow lawmakers. And their lawmakers don't have to have their butts in the chairs to vote. And I just don't like that at all. Just sit down in your chair and vote when there's votes taking place. I just don't get it. All right, we're going to get to that. Plus, I do want to get to this AOC Taylor Lorenz. Taylor Lorenz from the Washington Post. I'm pretty sure she got fired from the Washington Post, but Taylor Lorenz, she shared the hit piece on me from the Washington Post on me and Cities 92.9. She's a complete rabid liberal, AOC. They said some pretty crazy stuff over the weekend, and I need your help. I need your help to determine who's crazier, AOC or Taylor Lorenz, based on what they said over the weekend. So I'm going to get to that. But first, let's get to BLN News. They've got the story here. The current mayor. This is how BLN News puts it, and I like it. The current mayor wasn't chicken enough when it came to, far left members of the council demanding that they vote Molly Ward in as mayor pro tem. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. There were council members, Nick and Sheila Montney. They wanted to wait. They said, hey, let's wait until Dan Brady is sworn in, the new mayor, the new council, because everybody here on this council right now, they're not going to be here in a couple of weeks. So we should probably wait to vote in a mayor pro tem. We've already waited this long. Donna Bolin, she resigned in December, and she was the mayor pro tem. And they've kind of been putting this on the back burner since December. So what's 2-3 more weeks? That's what really bothers me about all of this. And now they've decided to go with this mayor pro tem, but these people are making decisions that affect, the representation that's going to be there 3 weeks from. Like, mayor pro tem affects you and I. These people are making decisions when they're not even going to be representing us in the next couple of weeks. So they're making a big decision like a mayor pro tem, but they're not even going to be there in the next couple of weeks. So Sheila Montney, obviously, and Nick, they all voted it down, but it wound up passing where Molly Ward is the mayor pro tem. Okay, so here's how BLN News puts it. Love it. The current mayor was too chicken when it came to the far left candidate or members of the council demanding that they vote Molly Ward in as mayor pro tem. He evidently is too chicken to do anything about the city council members who voted or violated city code. Now I'm going to say allegedly violated city code. If laws don't matter to the city council, why should they matter to you? That's how BLN News phrases it. And it's exactly right. So we talked about this all prior to the election. Cody Hendricks, I actually told some local people here, local Logan County election judges, and I just was curious. I was like, okay, what if somebody brought you in like cookies or cupcakes on election day? Would that And like their jaws dropped. They couldn't believe that was allowed to happen during the election, this past election, April 1st. That actually happened. An election judge was in my comment section the day after the election saying that Cody Hendricks was bringing election judges cookies and pastries and things like that. That is not a good look. Okay. But during public comment at a recent Bloomington City Council meeting this week, Jackie Beyer demanded accountability. Every citizen should, unless you want local elections to be hyper-partisan in the future, they should voice, hey, this is a violation of city code or appears to be a violation of city code. There should be some sort of accountability when it comes to this, because we want our local elections to not be hyper-partisan. We want them to be, straight down the middle, nonpartisan. So that way our elected officials will do what is expected for the city. Water is a nonpartisan issue, and that's what local government is all about. Basic infrastructure and public safety. These are things that are not partisan. That is why local elections typically, not everywhere, but typically are ran in a nonpartisan way, because you have to do what's best for the city, not for your party. So it's so important that these remain nonpartisan elections. Now, before I get into that, I'm going to pull this up on my cell phone because this is crazy. It's so refreshing for me to see this, where you guys know I moved to Lincoln and I participate in Logan County elections. This is so crazy to me. I've never seen this kind of mentality before in Bloomington normal from Republican Democrats. It's just not this way in, I'd say, probably larger cities. Okay, so Lincoln is significantly smaller. I think that's what is going on here, because when you're a candidate in a smaller city, you have to see your neighbor, or the guy you're running against every single day, and you have to interact with them at least a little bit. And this is why small towns are so much better than large towns. Changed my mind. But here's what he says to Steve Parrott. I told you there was a contested ward. I didn't even vote for either of these candidates because they're not my ward, but there was mail-in ballots, right? And we're going to get to that because it's the couple week mark here where the mail-in ballots are now officially counted. So here's what Steve Parrott says. He was running in the only contested ward in Lincoln. So he says this was an incredibly close race, and this incredibly close race has officially come to an end. I am deeply honored and grateful for the opportunity to continue serving as alderman for Ward 1. I want to take a moment to thank those who helped make this election possible. First and foremost, I want to thank God. I truly believe none of this would have happened or been possible without him. He surrounded me with people who supported and encouraged me every step of the way. And I want to thank my wife and daughters. They're my biggest supporters. They spent countless hours designing yard signs, door hangers, and took the lead on my social media. And I wouldn't have been able to do this without them. To everyone who knocked doors, passed out literature, or simply offered words of encouragement, thank you. You help, or you mean the world to me. And he goes, thank you to Ward 1 residents who cast their vote this election. Participating in democracy matters. And I'm proud to live in a community where people care, show up, and they're heard. Thanks to the Logan County Republican Party, I appreciate your support. And thank you to the Logan County Clerk's Office, election judges, poll workers. Your work is essential and deeply appreciated. Here's the good part, okay? Thank you to Seth Goodman for running a strong and well-organized campaign. His efforts brought energy and attention to this election and helped get more people engaged in this process. And then he goes on and he says, I look forward to channeling that enthusiasm and working together to make Ward 1 even better. Steve, that is incredible. I'm just saying, like, such a breath of fresh air. That is what candidates should look like. That should be civil. Seth Goodman did the same thing, right? Very civil. And they're all about making the community better, even if they win or even if they lose. It's all about the community and making it better. And you're not like doing this crazy party politics thing, so like sending out mailers with Dan Brady in a MAGA hat, or ripping apart Kathleen Lorenz because she took a contribution from the Republicans. Like, it's one thing to take a contribution. Okay. That's a totally different thing than sending out literature saying you're endorsed by a party. Okay. So Steve, these, I don't know. I think that the Lincoln elections, they're like, partisan, because I had like Republican on my ballot and like Democrat. So there's certain areas where they're partisan. Okay. But I'll tell you right now, this election ran partisanly. It's more nonpartisan than I would say the Bloomington normal elections. It's kind of wild to see this, because there was they were sending out literature with Dan Brady with the MAGA hat on. They were going after Kathleen Lorenz for taking a contribution from Republican people. I mean, there's a big difference between taking a contribution and then and then sending out mailers saying you're endorsed by the party. Okay, so there is a city ordinance in Bloomington City Code, okay, that says that you have to not present yourself as an endorsed candidate by any party. Okay, so take a listen to this. This is interesting. This is Jackie Beyer. She demanded accountability at a recent Bloomington City Council meeting during public comment. Here we go.
It is unfortunate, but I believe it is critical to address council members Cody Hendricks and Jenna Kern's behavior during their respective campaigns for mayor and Ward 1. Here are photos of their mailers. They both clearly violated the city's ordinance, which states candidates for elected offices of the city of Bloomington, mayor and council members, may not run or hold themselves out to be candidates of or nominated or endorsed by political parties. These mailers clearly hold themselves to be candidates of the Democrat Party, are endorsed by Democrats, and Mr. Hendricks advertises that he is endorsed by the Democrats of McLean County. As an election judge, I personally witnessed Cody Hendricks having 2 illegally placed yard signs in front of the Northside Church of Christ on election day. The polling place is a campaign-free zone attached to a public easement where it is also illegal to place political signs. In an interview with the Pantograph, Mr. Hendricks evidently told them he teaches high school civics and economics. Mr. Hendricks' professional educator license has a senior high school social science history endorsement. There is a separate social science-economics endorsement, which according to the Illinois State Board of Education, he does not have and requires at least 12 semester hours in economics and passing the social science-economics content exam. As an apparent reflection of their character, Cody Hendricks and Jenna Kearns voluntarily chose not to subscribe to the Illinois Fair Campaign Practices Code, which states, "It is the intent of the legislature that every candidate for public office in this state who subscribes to the Code of Fair Campaign Practices will follow the basic principles of decency, honesty, and fair play in order to encourage healthy competition and open discussion of issues and candidate qualifications, and discourage practices that cloud the issues or unfairly attack opponents." Mr. Hendricks chose to launch an attack campaign against his opponent, Dan Brady. If Mr. Hendricks is incapable of decency, honesty, and fair play, and unwilling to stay focused on open discussion of issues, can anyone trust that he is committed to those principles on council or in the classroom? In my opinion, Cody Hendricks and Jenna Kearns need to be held accountable and face consequences. The city of Bloomington needs to set precedents to ensure laws are followed and the city's municipal elections stay nonpartisan. The residents deserve law-abiding representatives who will serve with honesty, integrity, and civility. Thank you.
Nice. All right. That was Jackie Beyer, public comment. I got to take a quick break, but that raises a question. Here is the question. Does Cody Hendricks teach economics? And he claims he does. We're going to get to that video because he addressed this actually, and I'm pretty sure, right? He probably addressed this after Jackie Beyer's public comment, right? And this was in response to this comment, but We're going to play a clip of Cody Hendricks at the recent Bloomington City Council meeting. Then we're going to come back, and then we also have to dive into this. This is huge, this video that sparked this controversy about State Representative Tara Costa Howard. She is the sponsor of this bill. It's a very controversial bill, House Bill 2827. This is the homeschool bill that says, like, if you don't turn in a form, then you're going to be truant, and then people can come in and, bust down your door and be like, where's your homeschool kids? They're truant, right? And this is just trampling all over the rights of homeschooling parents, this bill. And it's not just me saying that, right? It's the Black Caucus, okay? This is a Democrat through and through. This is the guy, LaShawn Ford, who I told you yesterday actually introduced a bill that would establish overdose prevention sites. And what does that mean? You bring in your own little heroin baggie. I don't know how you do heroin. I don't know if it comes in a bag or what, or if it's I don't know. But you bring in your little dope bag, and then you walk into this facility and you do dope in front of the state agency, right? The Department of Human Services. So he introduced that bill. So this is by no means a conservative Republican, okay? And he's against the homeschooling bill. So we're going to get to that because she actually, in this video, it appears that she voted for an absent colleague, an absent lawmaker, and people are questioning, hey, is this allowed? Can lawmakers do that, voting for absent lawmakers? I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We are going to get to this. This is Cody Hendricks. He's going to address the city council. He's going to talk about how he's an economics teacher. So he actually does confirm that he's an economics teacher, but it's interesting because his license, it doesn't appear to have that on there. Okay, his license doesn't look like it has economics on it. Okay, so there's a different criteria. Social studies teacher is what Olympia's website says that he's teaching. Economics and social studies, very different things, clearly, because there is a different criteria or requirement of social science economics teachers, okay? You have to take a test. There has to be 18 semester hours of coursework, a total of 12 semesters in economics. The remaining hours must contain coursework with at least one other social science area, okay? So there's like coursework in order to obtain your license to teach economics. The question is, did he go through that coursework? Jackie Bayou, heard she brought this up in public comment. Is anybody going to ask him the truth? Are parents going to ask him the truth? Is Olympia going to ask him the truth? Why is he going out and saying he's an economics teacher, but doesn't have this on his license? There's a lot of questions here. So we're going to get to it here on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I also want to get to this video of Tara Costa Howard. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Good morning, Tim. So great to see you this morning. Lisa, good morning. Happy hump day. Yes, today is Wednesday. Good morning. Throw it into the comments section. Who do you think is crazier, AOC or Taylor Lorenz? Taylor Lorenz is that journalist, right, who worked with the Washington Post. I think she was subsequently fired or laid off or whatever, because it's the Washington Post, right? But good morning, Cat. Oh, I like this little emoji. That's so cute. Oh, I love it. I'm a big cat fan. I've got 3 cats and I love them all very much. And I am a crazy cat lady, but I am not of the belief, and we are actually going to get to dogs today, not cats, because the liberals, they're saying that dogs are causing climate change with their poo. And the dog food industry is just too big and it causes a lot of carbon emissions, and anything that you love, liberals hate. That's the thing. So you love your pet, you love your dog, they hate that. So crazy cat lady, yes, but I am not of the belief that cats are more important than human lives. Like most single women, they replace children and family with cats. Taylor Swift. What? Sorry, I got a little cold. We're gonna get to a lot this morning. A lot. I do want to get to Bernie Sanders and the difference between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. I didn't get to this yesterday. So Donald Trump, he walks into this UFC fight and the crowd goes wild naturally, right? It's Donald Trump. They start chanting USA. Sorry, excuse me, I yawned. USA, USA, USA. And Donald Trump walks in and, the crowd just goes wild. Bernie Sanders does not have that same reaction at a Coachella concert when he takes the microphone. He warbles on up there like the cranky old man that he is, and he starts screaming into the microphone about farting the oligarchy. Sorry, fighting the oligarchy. AOC said farting the oligarchy. You guys remember that clip? Hilarious. We're going to get to that here in just a minute. Smash that like button, subscribe. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Come sail away. Come sail away with Cities 92.9. Get ready with us for a cruise. Okay, we're giving away a cruise. Okay, so here's how you do it. You can register for a cruise and become a finalist during our cruise stops throughout the spring. Okay, so we're going to be taking entries and drawing 2 finalists to win a prize pack. So this is a totally different prize than the cruise. You're going to win something when you go to these cruise stops, and you can qualify for a spot at our grand prize giveaway on June 26th at the new Smash House Tavern on Prospect Road in Bloomington. You got to be 21 years of age to register. We draw 2 finalists at each stop. The first finalist within or after 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes after the start, of the stop. And then we do another drawing for the other finalists. So 2 finalists per stop. Now, if you are a finalist, then you're entered into this bigger pool and we will draw at our June 26th stop at the Smash House Tavern. So that's kind of how this works. It's really easy. Go to cities929.com, and then you can kind of read about all the details on how to win this Expedia Cruises cruise. I mean, this is awesome. It's for two. It's a Caribbean cruise, right? You could win a deluxe Caribbean cruise, air flights, everything covered. Okay, so this is all inclusive, a deluxe Caribbean cruise, right? So this is we've got one stop coming up actually tonight from 5 to 7. So it's at Runnin' Errands on Locust Street in Bloomington, West Locust Street in Bloomington, and that's from 5 to 7. The first drawing is obviously going to be at 5:30 for the first finalist, and then we'll have a second one at the end of the broadcast. So we're going to be broadcasting from there. You guys are going to want to come on out. This is huge. This grand prize giveaway of a cruise. I mean, take her a cruise for two. So take her, gentlemen, on a cruise. Okay. She wants to go on a cruise and surprise her with this and try to win. Okay. You got to be present to win. And all of the stops we have so far are on cities929.com. There's going to be more scheduled later. So you got to check back often to cities929.com, see where the stops are. So we have one April 16th, and we have one on May 5th at Deep End Tap. But right now, or tonight from 5 to 7. So today is April 16th. That's at Runnin' Errands. So you guys are going to want to head on over there from 5 to 7 p.m. tonight. And I want to get to this. Does Cody Hendricks really teach economics? So I just played the public comment for you. And Cody Hendricks, I think addressed this. Like, I'm pretty sure his speech here was in response to the public comment that Jackie Beyer gave during the last Bloomington City Council meeting. According to BLN News, the state of Illinois hasn't certified him to teach. So there's a big question mark is if this guy is qualified to teach economics, okay? Because on the Olympia website, it says he doesn't teach economics. He's a social studies teacher. And Cody Hendricks, he ran for Bloomington mayor. I hope that law passes, by the way. We talked about it, or that bill passed, as it's about nepotism. And you have to, as a candidate, disclose in your economic of interest like your statement of economic interest. When you file, you have to disclose if there is a spouse or a blood relative serving in the same local government. And Cody Hendricks, he obviously has a spouse on the McLean County Board. Abby Scott has a spouse on the McLean County Board. They don't share each other's last name. So you probably didn't know that. If this bill were to have passed, or is to pass, it's Senator Chapin Rose's bill, they would be required to disclose that. For transparency reasons, they should be required to disclose that. Am I right? Anyway, so Cody Hendricks said social studies teachers on the Olympia website. And the question is, who's going to ask him to tell the truth? This is what he said at the recent Bloomington City Council meeting. Take a listen.
Hangar downtown in the McLean County Museum of History. Recently, I was able to take some of my economics students downtown to do a field trip on local exploration of art and architecture in a community. We were able to team up with a dual credit humanities class and tour those facilities. And my econ students spoke very highly of it. They are now doing some of their final projects on some of the artists in our downtown. And so it was really awesome to be able to mold or mesh, my role as an alderman for downtown and as an econ teacher to be able to provide them with that opportunity. And we ran into the city managers too, so they got to see them, but that was a few weeks back. So just wanted to thank them for giving us the opportunity to come down.
Okay, so that is him claiming that he is in fact an economics teacher. He called them economics students, but he's labeled as a social studies teacher. Totally different things, totally different requirements. As you heard from Jackie Beyer during public comment, she said, look, the requirements are different. Did he meet these requirements in order to go out and call himself an economic teacher? 18 semester hours of coursework, total 12 semester hours at least, or 12 semester hours in economics. Okay, the remaining hours contain coursework in at least one other social science area. And then you got to take the social science economics test. So there's a big question mark here. A lot of people are, hey, on top of this violation of the city ordinance, or this appears to be a violation of the city ordinance, you were endorsed by Democrats in a nonpartisan race. Lincoln is not that way. We have Republicans and we have Democrats who run in our local elections. Okay, so there wasn't a whole lot of contested races, by the way. The one contested race I brought to you, it was all very civil, and it's so interesting. Like, they're ran partisanly, but you run as a Republican on the ballot, but they're so much nicer. And I think it's just a difference of population size. You're going to be nicer to the candidates you run against because you have to deal with them every single day. You'll see them in the store. Cody Hendricks, well, now it's funny because he sent out all those mailers and Dan Brady beat him, so now he has to serve on the city council with Dan Brady. That's going to be interesting. But like, why the attacks, like sending him out with Mac hat and like saying he's too Republican for Bloomington or whatever the mailer said. You got to run with these. You got to see these people on a day-to-day basis. Well, now Cody Hendricks does, but usually in a small town, you have to see these people and work with these people on a day-to-day basis. And that's why I think they're a little bit more civil than, Bloomington normal races, from what I understand. But like, everybody's friends. And it's just like so weird to see this, where everybody's just friends with each other. At least what I've seen so far. Everybody just seems to get along. All right, I want to get to this video footage. It's circulating on social media. State Representative Terry Costa Howard, she's been accused of voting yes on House Bill 2827, then immediately reaching over and voting yes for absent lawmakers. People who appear to be absent, okay? State Representative Lindsay LaPointe, she's a Democrat out of Chicago. She didn't appear to be in this video or appear to be on the House floor. And then Terry Costa Howard in this video reaches over, and this is called ghost voting, which is a violation of House rules. However, I want to be very clear. I don't know if LaPointe was on the House floor, reached out to Terry Costa Howard. She did not get back. So I don't know if she was on the House floor or not, or if there was any violation that occurred. Jeannie Ives, a former legislator, she said that this kind of stuff happens all the time. It's not blatantly in violation of rules unless you can prove that she wasn't on the House floor. You have to usually be present on the House floor, and you have to inform your colleague exactly how you want to vote before you leave, like to go grab lunch in the break room or whatever, or go to the restroom. But this has been abused before by Democrats, this privilege really to vote other member switches. Okay, by switches, I literally mean a button to vote. Okay, you click a button, it goes up on the vote screen, and this deserves answers. One social media member said, House rules require each representative cast their own ballot. This deserves answer. Why did Representative Howard vote for absent lawmakers on House Bill 2827? Which I think is a dead bill at this point, but we'll see if she resuscitates the bill. This was the homeschooling bill. We're going to get to that here just in a little bit. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. In the old days, just gotta get an easy psych degree, teach whatever you wanted. Yeah, there was a time during bed teacher. And like, here's the thing with Cody Hendricks, I really don't care all that much. Like, and here's why I don't care. Okay, the liberals care about credentials, okay, and degrees and requirements and meeting these requirements. To be honest with you, anybody can teach. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take somebody with degrees. That's what I say to people who are like on the fence about homeschooling. They're like, I don't know if I'm qualified. Look, anybody can teach. Everybody's a teacher. And here's how I know everybody's a teacher. You go to a job, right? Your boss is going to eventually ask you, if you haven't done it yet, to train somebody on that job, okay? Or somebody trains you on that job. And that person probably, depending on the situation here, doesn't have a degree in teaching, okay? So everybody's qualified to teach, okay? nobody, you don't have to have some sort of fancy degree, this is my belief, in order to teach specifically children, right? Now, if you're teaching somebody how to, I don't know, design buildings, okay, you might want to go to a university or some sort of training school to do that, but or if you're, doing plumbing work or anything like that, you want some sort of training, some sort of teaching by a qualified individual who's done it before. Okay. Teaching children math and reading, pretty easy. Just going to be honest. Okay. Which is also why I make the argument that teachers shouldn't be paid more. I just made people very uncomfortable. Screaming at the sky. Yes, teachers, the average salary, now, if they're making less than this, they're making on par with the state averages. Okay. A teacher in Illinois is making the same as anybody else, average wise, the state average of salary. Okay. Not to mention, teachers get the benefits, the health care. They also have summers off and weekends off. Okay. And pretty much every holiday, like, I don't know, every holiday that you could ever dream of off. Okay. Some Juneteenth or whatever off, or whatever, like anything, like all the time. They're off all the time. Okay, you've got spring break, you've got like 2 breaks in winter. I think you've got winter break, and then you got Christmas break. I don't know. I can't keep up with it, but they're off quite a bit. So you have to put that into your calculations. They actually make more if you add that to your calculations than the average person in Illinois. Okay, teachers do. I also believe, and I'm of the firm belief, especially now, once you get to 8th to 12th, it's a little bit different, and maybe there should be, some sort of qualification. As you get older, you have to, teach them new things, but like definitely K through 8, those teachers, yeah, I mean, anybody could do it. I shouldn't say that. Anybody could do it, because sometimes you're just not gifted in that. It's really about, can you put your mind to it, and are you going to do it? And like we all have the ability to do it. Okay. Whether you're gifted and want to do it is a totally different thing. And you're good at it is a totally different thing. But it doesn't take, my point is, it doesn't take a full-fledged education degree or teaching license. I'm just going to be honest. That's my take on it. People homeschool, they do it just fine, and they are actually beating all of the educators in public education who have these degrees and these qualifications and licenses. So the homeschool parents who don't have these licenses and are just teaching their kids at home, they're beating the public school teachers who have obtained these licenses. So what does that tell me? That tells me qualification, or a rigorous training regimen, through college, and a college degree is not necessary to teach children. It's just not. And now, some people aren't as gifted at, teaching, and they get, they have a patience problem, but it can be learned. And you can get good at it like anything else, you do. It's all about practice. So yeah, I brought that up probably just because, I hate it when teachers scream at the sky and they're like, we need more money. And I have a lot of teacher friends. They probably don't like that I say this, but I really don't think that they need more money. Not in the state of Illinois. The average salary is pretty much the same as, other people who are making, are doing other jobs, for example, I don't know, like, the Amazon worker in Illinois or whatever. People are, if you look at the statewide or the state average salary, it is this. They're actually making more if you calculate all the time off and the benefits. They're making more than the state averages, or state average salary, the teachers. Okay, and that's just a fact. So I hate it when they say, need more money. It's like, do you? Because we have to remember anybody could do this job if they really put their mind to it, because it's teaching, and specifically it's teaching children to read and write. We're not teaching, the next rocket scientist here. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. I do want to inform you that we are sailing away. Come sail away. Come sail away with Cities 92.9 and Expedia Cruises. We are registering people at these cruise stops throughout the spring. Our next stop is tonight from 5 to 7 at Run and Errands. You're going to want to head on out, and we're going to select 2 finalists. Those 2 finalists will win a prize pack, and they're going to qualify for a spot at our grand prize giveaway June 26th at the new Smash House Tavern on Prospect Road in Bloomington. You got to be 21 years of age to register. We're going to draw 2 finalists at each stop. We're going to draw the first finalist 30 minutes after the start, so at 5:30 tonight, and we're going to draw our first finalist, and then we're going to do it at the end, our second finalist of the broadcast. So, you got to be present to win. And we have some stops on our website, cities929.com. You can check it out. We were at Bandanas last week. This week, we're at Run and Errands in Bloomington from 5 to 7. Head on out. Try to win this stop or this cruise, because this is incredible. I mean, this is probably the best prize I've ever seen us give away. So you got to get on top of this. This is a Caribbean cruise from Expedia Cruises in Cities 92.9. We're giving it away. Enter to be a finalist at tonight's cruise stop at Run and Errands from 5 to 7. First drawing is going to be at 5:30. We're going to draw 2 finalists. Okay. Plus, you're going to win a prize pack. So it's definitely worth it. Head on out to Run and Errands tonight, 5 o'clock. All right. Got to get to this story. Tara Costa Howard. Okay. Critics are accusing this sponsor of the bill, House Bill 2827. This, of course, is the bill where they want to invade homeschooling spaces. We were talking about Cody Hendricks, an economics teacher, over the break. And, I'm just going to say it. Homeschooling teachers, they're doing it better. I look at the math, or look at the numbers. The kids can't read or write or do math in these public schools. I know you're getting very uncomfortable, but the homeschool teachers are doing it better. There is no reason to be crafting legislation that regulates homeschooling or home educators. There's no reason for it at all to be regulating homeschooling. Because that's not the problem. The problem in Illinois is really your public education teachers who get all these credentials and, they get all these credentials and degrees, and then they wind up not being able to teach the kids how to read and write and do math at grade level. So former Republican legislator Jeannie Ives says that this kind of stuff happens all the time where voting, where members vote other people's switches. Okay, now Tara Costa Howard has come under heat for doing this. It appears that she had voted for the state representative on video. It appears that she voted for Lindsay LaPointe, a Democrat who wasn't in her seat and didn't appear to be on the House floor, but maybe she was. Now, what Jeannie Ives says is that this is common courtesy. Members do this all the time where they vote other people's switches. Maybe you're meeting a constituent outside the doors. Maybe you're meeting with staff. Maybe you're in the restroom. Maybe you're grabbing lunch in the break room. But the rules that are needed to be the rules are you need to be present on the House floor and you need to inform your colleague exactly how you want to vote, and then it's okay. So Costa Howard did not immediately return request for comment. Ives, she says Democrats have been caught abusing this power, so this is why she's come under fire for possibly violating rules. Because people know that Democrats have abused this in the past. So here it is, the privilege of voting another member switch is abused and has been abused. And there's a way to get around it. You use a vote verification process. Okay, so if it is being abused, a member of the legislature can say, hey, we want vote verification, and then we have to verify that the member is in fact present on the House floor and did in fact tell a fellow colleague how to vote for them. Okay. Now, if the member is not present, then the vote dies and it does not go forward. So there's a verification process. And you can only do verification if the vote is in the affirmative. Okay. So if somebody votes yes. So last legislative session, we know this, Republican lawmakers led by State Representative Patrick Windhorse argued that the Democrats violated a House rule allowing a third vote on the budget bill. Okay, now the budget ultimately passed at like 4 a.m. in the morning or something, but they had attendance issues. Okay, so the budget bill failed twice due to attendance issues. Then they voted on a third time. And, it ultimately passed at 4 a.m. in the morning or something like that. And the Democrat leaders, they suspended the rules, prompting GOP criticism for procedural abuse. Okay, so they suspended these rules where, you can't vote. I think it's like House Rule 72 or something. They violated this rule or allegedly violated this rule, right? But they did some procedural moving around, maneuvering to avoid this rule. And it failed twice due to attendance and issues. And then ultimately they voted on a third time, and you're not supposed to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's happened before. That's why she's coming under criticism now. It's because it's happened before, and people are like, wait a second, is she voting for absent members? Homeschooling advocates, of course, they argue that this bill infringes on parental rights and it imposes unnecessary burdens on homeschooling families. The bill mandates that parents submit a homeschool declaration form to their local school district effective August 1st, 2026. Failure to do so would classify the child as truant. Now, this is really what's interesting because the bill's dead unless she resuscitates it, which I don't know if she's going to be able to do that. There are a lot of people against this bill. I mean, and I can't help but think, and I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, it was, so many homeschoolers are out there. If we were to able to get these homeschool parents out for other issues like, what was I talking about yesterday? The overdose prevention centers, okay, where we're going to have people quite literally taking baggies of dope into a state facility to get high, and it all be legal, and I see all of these homes like, where are these people and why that, like, yes, this bill is terrible, but I wish that these homeschooling families would understand that there is government overreach all the time, and we need to weaponize like this all of the time against radical bills that infringe on our rights. I mean, where is this group of people when there's attacks on your Second Amendment right? Where is this group of people when the comprehensive sex education was getting passed for public school kids? I feel like we all have an obligation to not just protect our homeschooling rights, but also the rights of everybody on everything. But where were they, during COVID and the edicts that were passed down by Governor J.B. Pritzker? I don't know. I see this kind of stuff, and I've never seen this before, where you have a supermajority Democrat House, supermajority, and everything gets passed no matter what. And then a bill like this comes out, and then people are just rallying together to shut this bill down, and that is so exciting to see. And I just wish we would see it more often, I guess is my point. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Vote not present or get your butt there and push the button. Yeah, I mean, I think about this stuff all of the time. Like, okay, so you're in the bathroom or whatever, you're talking to constituents. I don't even like the rule to begin with where this is allowed under certain circumstances. It shouldn't be allowed at all. And the fact that we have these types of rules is why we're at where we're at in the state of Illinois. Do you think, honestly, the founding fathers, do you think a George Washington or Thomas Jefferson were were in the bathroom when important votes were taking place? No. Or do you think that they were outside talking with a constituent or getting some lunch from the break room? Like, give me a break. Like, these people are so yuppie and soft. It's like, come on, get rid of this rule entirely. I mean, if you're not there, you're not there, and you don't have the votes. Okay. And I get things happen and you're hungry and you got to go to the bathroom. Okay. Just get your butt there and SOL, right? I mean, you're shoot out of luck and you've just got to deal with it, if you're absent. Come on, get your butt there and push the button. Yeah, I don't even like this rule where this is allowed, where you can be absent from your chair, in your chair, and you don't have to be there, and your colleague can push the button for you. Like, do you really think the George Washington founding fathers, they were like this when important votes were taking place? Do you think that they were like in the break room getting lunch? Like, come on. You know what I mean? This is a dumb rule where you're allowed in certain circumstances to vote for a colleague. I think that's why we're at where we're at. We allow for things like this to go on in the state of Illinois. This shouldn't even be a rule. You shouldn't now get a chance to go and have a little lunch break, and if you want to, and here's the root of the problem. You're passing way too much legislation if you got to be in there for 14 plus hours, you know what I mean? Like, you're passing way too much legislation. And if you miss a vote, you miss a vote, and that's the consequences of leaving that chair to go and do whatever you want. I just think it is open for abuse when you allow for things like this to go on. Now, I do want to talk about the bill itself. Jeannie Ives, she says that the bill is on life support. She said more likely than not, she knew she didn't have the votes. That's why she pulled it on thirds. And I don't think that she's going to back away from any position, or I don't think she's one to back away from any position once she's established it. So I didn't think she had the votes, and it's probably because the Black Caucus isn't in favor of it. So State Representative LaShawn Ford, total FD, right? He was the one who introduced the overdose and prevention centers, which, I mean, come on, guys, that's extreme. There's only a few places, I think, New York and maybe a couple of other places have overdose prevention centers where you can go and get high under state watch. He spoke out against the bill at a rally in Chicago. I'll get to that here at the top of the hour. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Gotta go to the bathroom, can't vote. That's okay. We already know you're full full of it. Yeah, so it's like, I get it. You gotta go to the bathroom, whatever. The root problem here is that if you are, 14 hours straight, voting on legislation, session should only take really this long. Like, it should only take a few minutes, or like 30 minutes, if that, because you shouldn't be passing gobs of legislation. Like, if I was a legislator, I'd just be voting. Nope, 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 nope. We don't need. Let's enforce the laws we've already got. Okay, we don't need any more. And let's fix the laws that we've already got. So, yeah, it's just like, I just don't. Or let's take away some laws. Honestly, I don't know. I just don't like the rule where you can be gone out of your chair, and because I don't think that George Washington or Tom Jefferson or some of these founding fathers would have done that. There was votes, especially important votes like this one. This was obviously a very controversial bill. I would definitely want to be seen in my chair voting. You know what I mean? If it's not important to you, the law, okay, just vote non-present, okay. Voting for people in the affirmative when you're not there is just ridiculous. Voting in the affirmative, voting yes for people who aren't there is just insane. So let's see. We're going to get to LaShawn Ford. He spoke out against this bill. So it's not just, Republicans who are against the homeschooling bill. This is against LaShawn Ford. And one thing that you need to note is that your Sharon Chung's, your freshman lawmaker. So Dave Gaylor's been there a while. He could probably speak out against this bill if he wanted to, but LaShawn Ford has probably been there longer than I've been alive, or close to it. These are lawmakers that have been there a long time who speak out against this. Democrats who speak out against this. They are Democratic leadership and they can speak out against this. Now, there might be some Democrats who want to speak out against this, but they couldn't because the Democratic leadership wouldn't allow them. Okay, or they don't want to oppose their Democratic leadership. It takes a lot of courage to do that, and they don't want to oppose. I don't think it takes a lot of courage to do that, really, because you should be representing your constituents and you should go there and represent your constituents. And it doesn't take a lot to oppose your party or the Democratic leadership because you're not there for them. Okay, you're there for the people. And you should be going in with that mindset. And the problem with Illinois politics is that they're all there for themselves and they're all there for their friends. Okay. And like I've told you multiple times, these are theater geeks. They all sat at their own lunch table and they were all buddies, and they decided to not make anything or do anything with their lives. And they wanted to go in the public sector because God forbid you create a product that people want and you go out there and you participate in the private sector. Okay, so they don't leave college. They want to stay in college for as long as possible, and they want to do research. They don't want to apply that research ever in an actual job. But they want to do research for several years, and they want to get out of that and either become a professor at a university or run for office. Okay, that's what these Democrats want to do. And I mean, I've caught on. The gig's up. Everybody knows why you're there, and it's because you refuse to participate with the rest of us. Okay, you want to be an outsider. You want to be. You don't want to conform with the rest of society. You want to be an outsider, and you want to do your own little public sector thing over here and not participate in the real world. Okay, you want to live in your fantasy world where there's fake money because you take it from people, and then you provide services that nobody really asked for, and they're not even well thought out or well done services. So the gig's up. I know why you're there. It's because you're a loser. There's winners, there's losers, and I'm just gonna be honest with you. People who stay in politics in the public sector for a long period of time are typically there because they are losers and they don't want to live in the real world, and they don't feel like they're a part of the real world, and they victimize themselves. That's why the Democrat Party is they victimize themselves all the time. They're the party of victimhood, and they're the losers in school who didn't want to conform. Okay, football's cool, sports are cool, doing well in school, very cool. These are the people who chose like the weird, and I call them theater kids. I was a theater kid, and that you can break the stereotype, but like you're getting a picture in your head of those people. They were the the outcasts, and they didn't want to do what it took to be a winner, and they demonized the people who win. That's what it is. Welcome to the Red Kingdom. Hey, I appreciate you being here. We took the break and I was telling you a little bit about LaShawn Ford, Democrat of Chicago. He was at a recent rally. I should pull up the audio, but I'll tell you what he said. At this rally, he said, I believe in restorative justice. I believe in making sure that people don't have a pathway to the justice system, the criminal justice system. This bill is pipelined to the criminal justice system for parents. So the truancy, if you're truant, they'll come in, they'll be like, where's your kids? And it criminalizes. So this is what LaShawn Ford says, criminalizes parents for wanting to love their children. How can we criminalize parents for wanting to love their children? Okay, so number one, homeschooling, not an issue in Illinois. They're better. The homeschool kids turn out better than the public school kids. I'm just going to be honest with you, statistically speaking. They can read and do math and do all of these things at grade level. And I think it's hilarious. And it just goes to prove you. I don't want to say anybody can teach. You definitely have to be gifted. It doesn't require crazy amounts of degrees and certifications in order to teach children. Okay. I mean, homeschooling parents do it just fine, and they're actually doing it better than a lot of your public school teachers. I'm not saying that there's not good public school teachers. Don't scream at the sky at me. Okay. And turn blue. I'm not saying that there's not good ones. Okay. And in everything, there's probably also really bad homeschooling teachers. But who don't teach their children at all and abuse the homeschooling system just as much as public school teachers abuse the public school system. So you're not going to be able to address all of it, every little instance. Okay. And that's part of Illinois' problem is they try to craft laws over small instances. Like, for example, they tried to ban Savannah cats, or I have a Savannah cat, and they tried to ban these Savannah cats, and they're really cool cats. They're like larger, and they're kind of like not bobcats. They're not like big cats. Okay, they can get big, but there's some Savannah cats that are different hybrids. Mine is a different hybrid, and he's smaller. Okay, so I guess somewhere in Illinois, one of these Savannah cats got out and was very menacing to a child. Okay. Now, I mean, there's dogs that are menacing. There's dogs that bite children and hurt children all of the time. Are we going to ban dogs in the state of Illinois? Well, no. Okay. This would happen one time, and then they tried to ban these cats. And that's just a perfect example of the way Illinois operates. They find these tiny little instances that aren't representative of most people, and then they craft legislation that way, which is just dumb. They tried to argue, and really this wasn't a problem because they were homeschooling. It was because they were terrible parents. They, selected this tiny little story about how tiny. I mean, I say tiny because it only happened, it's not happening at a a wide scale like this. This wasn't due to homeschooling error. Okay. This was because the parents were terrible. And I guess the parents neglected this. DCFS was involved, and it was a failure of DCFS why this kid ended up dead in a garbage can. Okay. And they tried to argue, the sponsors of this bill, they tried to argue that homeschooling parents do this at a large scale. And that's just not true. We know that that's not true. Most homeschooling parents are good people, and they care about their kids and want to love their kids, and they pull them out of the public schools like CPS, Chicago Public Schools, which is why the Black Caucus is probably against this. Ford said that homeschooling has increased since the pandemic across all demographics, but specifically in the Black community from 3.3% of the Black community in Illinois were homeschooling prior to the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, it has soared to 17%. So this is awesome, I think, because, people saw what these public school teachers were teaching their kids during the pandemic because you had to bring it home. And the parents didn't like it, and they said, enough's enough. I'm going to pull them out, and I'm going to do it myself. I believe that Democrats like Ford are against the bill because Black families have swapped over from Chicago public schools to homeschoolings, because look at Chicago public schools. Similar to prison, you've got to literally walk through metal detectors. Okay. So why would I send my kid to prison? And this is why, tax increase after tax increase is voted yes on in Bloomington Normal, is because I really do think that parents get a little itchy, and they're like, I feel so bad for sending my kid to the school where they're not learning anything via the metrics. what is it, like max 30% of kids can read at grade level. Okay. And I'm being generous with that statistic. It's way less, and it's even less for math. Okay, doing math at grade level. So yeah, they're switching from CPS to homeschooling the Black community in Chicago. And LaShawn Ford, he can speak out against this stuff because he's experienced. He is, when I say experience, he's been there a long time, and he's a part of the Democrat leadership. Okay. Your Sharon Chungs, they cannot speak out against the homeschool bill. Why? Because she's a freshman lawmaker. You have to be there for a certain period of time in order to speak out against things like this. Otherwise, if you speak the mind of or if you, I don't know, do your job and actually represent your constituents, then you're going to be voted out, or you're going to be ran against. They'll get a candidate to run against you. And, Sharon Chung, she doesn't want that. She wants her job. She wants to be a lawmaker, and she wants to make money doing it. And these lawmakers, they get I think it's like $150 per diem a day while they're in legislative session, which is insanity to me. It's like, wait a second, like what? And then on top of that, they're like some of the highest paid legislators in the country. It's insanity. Anyway, I gotta shift gears. I want to talk about AOC. Who's your favorite out of these two women? They've gone viral. They've given us viral offerings for content over the weekend. And I didn't get to it yesterday or this week, and I wanted to pull it this week or this Wednesday. It happened over the weekend, these two viral clips. But AOC, she is an elderly she is a social media influencer, and she has a side hustle where she's a congresswoman. Okay, so she's a social media hustler, and Taylor Lorenz, she is an elderly tech blogger, and she used to work for Washington Post, but was laid off. Why? Because people don't subscribe or read the Washington Post because it's complete garbage. Taylor Lorenz, not a fan. She actually shared and was part of this whole sharing of this article, the Washington Post. They did a hit piece on cities, which is, what's new. NPR does it all the time, and it is what it is. We're just trying to provide some sort of balance to this very, very one-sided mainstream media. So here's social media influencer AOC spilling something out of her face hole as usual, and she declared that America was made to be destroyed. Keep in mind, when she isn't making Instagram videos, she is a member of Congress, and that's her side hustle, and representing her constituency. But she has also been on tour with Bernie Sanders. They've been going to rallies to fart the oligarchy, right? And she's actually been going to areas predominantly Kamala Harris, like where there's Kamala Harris voters, where Kamala Harris did well. And, we've got billionaire funded non-government organizations that are organizing these people to show up to these fight the oligarchy rallies that her and Bernie Sanders are hosting. In AOC and the NGO's defense, however, they know that if they lie, they can count on the media to swear by it. Okay, so they lie at these rallies. They say a bunch of randomness. Okay, that is just totally not true. That Donald Trump is going to get rid of Medicaid and Social Security, things like that. The media is not going to hold them accountable for that. Of course, we know that the media is going to carry water for Bernie Sanders and AOC. And we know that they aren't going to look into the billionaire-funded NGOs gathering and organizing these people and paying these people to show up at these rallies. They're not going to look into that, the lamestream media. They're going to swear by everything that AOC says in these meetings or in these rallies. Let's take a listen to what AOC here says. Now, remember, we're going to play Taylor Lorenz just a little bit, and keep in mind, I'm going to ask you this question. Who's crazier, AOC or Taylor Lorenz? Take a listen.
Also, the other way I think you can think about it is that we are, perhaps we are in the downfall of the broken way.
Are we?
This was not built to last. Inequity, injustice is not built to last. It lasts a long time. It could last hundreds of years, But ultimately, it crumbles into this, a small cohort of incompetent people that create damage. And from that, something new can spring. And so maybe something is declining right now, but maybe it deserves to decline. Also,
What? So that was AOC. Unclear how she defines downfall, because I don't know about you, but I think America's doing pretty great right now. We are going to shift from our solely taxpayer-funded revenue to a more tariff-based revenue. 70-30 is hopefully what we get to, where 70% comes from the taxpayer, 30% comes from the tariffs as far as revenue, overall revenue. I'd also like to I love to see what Donald Trump is doing with the executive orders and social issues. That's great. But this tariff thing is really good for American manufacturing. We're going to get more people to build here and make things here. And there's going to be a ton of jobs. We've already saw here in the state of Illinois, 2,000 plus jobs come to Belvidere, Illinois, opening that Stellantis plant after the Stellantis CEO met with Donald Trump for a couple of days. I don't know how she defines downfall, but I think it's pretty dang great. The egg prices have gone down like he promised he was going to do. Right now, all I see is the American people. They like the current president. They recognize he cares more about people like them than Representative AOC and the Democrat Party does. Okay, they understand Donald Trump is pro-American manufacturer, pro-American businesses, and pro-American worker. Okay, working families. So Representative AOC, not sure what downfall means to her. I think that downfall, what that means to her is that there are people out there who have a different opinion than me, and that means America is in a downward spiral or a downfall. Representative AOC was on a podcast there performing with other lefties. Now, this was a CNN special that Taylor Lorenz did. And she talked about Luigi Mangione. This is the guy who killed CEO Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO, in cold blood. Okay. And he's been heralded as a hero, said to be dreamy. Okay. So here we have her talking about, Luigi and how, he's a hero, okay, with CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan. And this was a special about extremism. And they were laughing about Luigi killing the CEO, Brian Thompson, in cold blood. I'm not kidding you. Let's take a listen to this. And you tell me who's crazier. Is it AOC or is it Taylor Lorenz? Let's get to this. Hold on. Here we go.
These millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer, when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts, and we give them Netflix shows. There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who gather outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women, especially, that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
Yeah, I just realized women will literally date an assassin before they swipe right on me. That's where we are. I'm sure you wouldn't like to be compared to a Trump supporter, but some of how people cannot understand why people have sympathies for Mangione strikes me as the same as a lot of media not understanding why people support Trump.
I totally agree.
It's because a lot of people are just really, really desperate.
They want somebody to take on the system. They want somebody to tear down these barbaric establishment institutions.
Okay. So they talked about extremism. This was a special that they did on CNN. That was Taylor Lorenz. This is what she said about Luigi Mangione. Quote, here's a man who's a revolutionary. He's famous, he's handsome, he's young, he's smart, and he seems like a morally good man, which is hard to find. This is what she said about this guy who killed somebody in cold blood. Okay. The difference between Mangione and Donald Trump. Yes, Donald Trump is taking on the system, but guess what? Donald Trump didn't kill somebody in cold blood. Actually, somebody tried to kill him in cold blood. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is, there's no comparison here. This guy is not a morally good man. You want to know how I know that? He guns somebody down. Like, what? And, you know, oftentimes you'll hear me talk about the media cool kids table. And I've talked about this before with the, you know, I'm never invited to these things. You know, I went to ISU. You guys know that. I got my journalism degree, and I think it's hilarious. They hold these like little award ceremonies and everything like that. I'm never invited to these things. Definitely not. Why? Because I don't fit the narrative. I don't fit the mold. And here's the reason why I don't. These people are the cool kids table. Actually, it's the lame kids table, right? They don't want to invite anybody in. So here's a person, Taylor Lorenz, fired for lying to her editors at the Washington Post, amongst other things. Okay, and this CNN dude who's trying to fit in while ignoring these assassination fantasies. Okay, well, like, if I was this guy, Donnie O'Sullivan on CNN, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about, Taylor? This is ridiculous. Don't call this man a revolutionary. Don't even insinuate that this is a revolutionary or somebody who's taking on the system. He killed somebody and murdered somebody in cold blood, you know? And he doesn't say that. Why? Because he wants to fit in. Okay, so these are very lame people, and they're all sitting at the same table, the mainstream media. And if you are for the truth, and if you are for the constituency, or if you are for the body of the people, we the people, then they don't like you, because it's not about we the people, it's about me, and it's about us. That's what the mainstream media is all about. I got to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Yeah, they're all at this cool kids table. It's more like the uncool kids table. Okay. Here you have Donnie O'Sullivan. He's not interested in journalism. He's not even really interested in extremism. What he wants to do is fit in. He wants to get on camera with Taylor Lorenz, and they want to giggle like this is some sort of Bumble date. They want to giggle over commie murdering people and celebrate them as a morally good man, like Luigi Mangione, or Mangione. I always mess up his name. They want to celebrate this cold-blooded killer. Okay. So all Donnie Sullivan wants is to belong. He doesn't care about journalism. Taylor Lorenz doesn't care about journalism. We the people, and finding out the truth. And really, at the end of the day, there is no comparison. Like, they literally compared Donald Trump to Luigi, and how somebody just wants somebody to address the system, which is true, but there is not a comparison between Donald Trump and Luigi. Why? Because Donald Trump didn't go out there and gun somebody down. Okay. So my question for you is, AOC or Taylor Lorenz? Work it out amongst yourselves in the comment section. Who's crazier? Was it AOC saying that the downfall of America is here and America needs some sort of downfall? I don't know why she is claiming America is in a downfall. The definition is probably of her downfall is not my definition, because right now all I see is American people who like their current president, and they recognize that he cares more about them and the working family than AOC and the Democrat Party and the people like Bernie Sanders. Like, definitely. So we're going to get to a few other things. Woke City Council declares themselves a trans, intersex, and gender diverse sanctuary city. We're going to get to that. What else are we going to get to? I do want to get to this. Bernie Sanders. Speaking of Bernie Sanders, I want to get to Bernie Sanders because he and Donald Trump couldn't be more different. And, that was clear because Donald Trump went to this UFC fight and people were screaming his name. Bernie Sanders, he went to a Coachella concert and ranted and did this old man hobble out to the stage and ranted into the microphone. We're going to be back. What's new? Get whoa, whoa, whoa! Come sail away. Come sail away with Cities 92.9 and Expedia Cruises. You can register for a cruise, become a finalist at one of our cruise stops throughout the spring. We're going to be taking entries, drawing 2 finalists to win a prize pack and qualify for a spot at our grand prize giveaway on June 26th at the new Smash House Tavern in Bloomington. You got to be 21 years of age to register, and we're going to be drawing 2 finalists at each stop. The first finalist is going to be drawn 30 minutes after the start of the broadcast. We're doing 2-hour broadcasts live from these cruise stops, these events. So we have one today, running errands in Bloomington from 5 to 7. The first drawing is going to be 30 minutes after 5, so that'd be 5:30. You got to be present to win. You can check out all of the stops on cities929.com. Check it out, cities929.com. And hey, come win a cruise, a deluxe Caribbean cruise with Expedia Cruises with Cities 92.9 tonight, 5 o'clock, running errands. All right, I do want to get to this. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Taylor Lorenz. Sorry, Taylor Lorenz. I was telling you a little bit about Taylor Lorenz. She went on and on about murderer Luigi Minagione. He's a man who's a revolutionary. He's famous. He's handsome. He's young. He's smart. And he's a person who seems like he's a morally good man, which is hard to find. This is what Taylor Lorenz said about a guy who killed somebody in cold blood. I just can't believe it. So she was on with this guy, Donnie O'Sullivan. He's CNN, and they were doing a special on extremism, and they tried to compare Luigi to Donald Trump, and they were like, well, somebody's just looking for someone to break the system up. Donald Trump and Luigi are not at all the same, okay? Because guess what? The guy, Mangione, he killed somebody in cold blood. Donald Trump didn't do that, okay? So they're just ridiculous. And really what this is all about is Donnie O'Sullivan wanted to talk with Taylor Lorenz on his exclusive, and they wanted to giggle like little girls and talk about commies who murder people in public. And really, this has nothing to do with journalism. They're the uncool kids table. Okay, so they are. There's no better example than this. They are not in it for we the people, like a true journalist would be. They are in it for themselves and for each other, and it's gross. Okay, so all that being said, Donnie O'Sullivan, he just wants to belong. And he wants to belong, and all these people are very uncool, and they all sit at the uncool kids table, and it's all about them and each other, and it's not about we the people. And journalism should be about we the people and the truth. So who do you think took more crazy pills? Was it AOC or was it Taylor Lorenz? Work it out amongst yourselves. Give me a text 309-451-9299. You can also find the show on YouTube and subscribe today. I do want to get to this. Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, they couldn't be any different. Now, there are right ways for politicians to reach the culture, and then there are stupid ways to do it. Bernie Sanders does it the stupid way. Okay, they've got totally different styles, and I want to kind of compare and contrast the two, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump, he went to a UFC event over the weekend, and then Bernie Sanders, he wandered up onto stage, warbled his way up onto stage like at the old grandpa. I thought it was a grandpa who appeared at Coachella, and somebody, should have shouted out, "Come get your grandpa! Somebody's grandpa's missing!" Right? So he was in the middle of the stage during like Coachella. He wandered out into the stage in the middle of this concert. Donald Trump, he is winning bigly with the American people, by the way, and the Democrats are have never been less popular culturally. They are just so unpopular and irrelevant at this point, the Democrat Party in general. So Donald Trump, let's start with him. The crowd just erupts and people start shaking his hand. People start chanting, USA, USA. He shows up to one of these UFC fights.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Okay, so he's shaking hands. He's sitting there. He's high-fiving people. There's chants of USA, USA. There's people with MAGA hats on, right? I mean, Donald Trump just draws this huge crowd, and people love him. People love him. Now, let's compare that to Bernie Sanders at the Coachella concert. He makes a surprise appearance at this Coachella thing. Let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Look, I'm not going to be long, but this is what I want to say. This country faces some very difficult challenges. And the future of what happens to America is dependent upon your generation. Now, you can turn away and you can ignore what goes on, but if you do that, you do it at your own peril. We need you to stand up to fight for justice. To fight for economic justice, social justice, and racial justice. Now, we got a president of the United States who, I agree. He thinks that climate change is a hoax. He is dangerously wrong. And You and I are going to have to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and tell them to stop destroying this planet.
Okay, so this is just so nauseating. Okay, so 3,000 miles away from where Trump was at the UFC fight, you've got Bernie Sanders walking out there and he's speaking to a bunch of tweaking Gen Zers, who are on ketamine or whatever drug of choice, and they're tweaking at this Coachella concert, and somebody's grandpa, wanders out there and starts screaming and going on this old man rant. So, yeah, there is this spiel, and it goes on for 4 minutes. I only played a minute and a half of it because I just couldn't handle it anymore. It's the same spiel: billionaires, blah 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 blah, 1%. Blah, 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 blah. Overall, his message was the country is facing some difficult times and the future of America is dependent on this generation, the generation he's speaking to, my generation. And I can speak poorly about my generation because I know what they're like. Okay. Fun fact, the Coachella attendees, 60% of them financed their ticket to go to the festival. Okay. Wow. So that tells you all you really need to know about that. I mean, my generation will finance DoorDash. Okay. So there's like this Affirm thing, and they're financing like their DoorDash, their food that they have, their Chipotle that they get DoorDashed. So I'm just saying, if you need to take out a loan to go to Coachella, you probably shouldn't be going to Coachella because there's this little thing called wants and needs. If you are in a financially unstable place where you can't afford to go to a concert, then don't go. If you have to take out a loan to go to a concert, you probably shouldn't go. Just saying, right? So just financial sense, it just makes sense, right? There were about 100,000 attendees over that weekend at that festival, and over half of them were financing their tickets to go. So the ticket prices are around $600. And the festival goers, they were going to spend over probably $1,000 on housing and food and things like that. So $1,000 trip. But like financing it, like then you probably shouldn't go. It's too expensive a trip for you to make then if you got to finance it. So the payment plan, down payment started as low as $50. So you could put $50 down and then you make payments, to go to this Coachella concert, which I just think is so ridiculous. And you had to finance it. So that's accruing interest. So if you're making minimum payments, it's going to wind up being way over $1,000. So really, is it over? Like, is a Coachella concert really worth over $1,000? I don't think so. So here's the key difference between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. I want to get back to them. I'm sorry. I had to go on a little side rant about my generation, and I don't understand the Coachella concerts. I think they're dumb, especially if you're financing it and you're paying interest on a concert. It sounds kind of stupid. This is also the same generation who, finances DoorDash like your pizza. So probably shouldn't be ordering DoorDash if you have to finance it. Just saying. So the difference between Bernie and Trump doesn't have to interrupt the audience, get onto stage and lecture them. He didn't grab the microphone at the UFC and say, "It's a beautiful bill. Everybody should love my tariffs." He didn't grab a microphone and do that. Bernie Sanders did. Donald Trump just shows up and he's just acts like you. And it's not really an act. He's just like you. Okay. And like I said, he's part of this camp where, it's the private sector. He's cool like us, and he's just going to enjoy a popular sporting event and he's just sitting in the crowd. Donald Trump looked cool. Bernie, on the other hand, totally uncool. He interrupts everybody. Everybody's stoned out of their minds anyway. And, they're probably going to make some regretful sexual decisions, judging by some of the garb that my generation was wearing. The ladies that were at Coachella concert, no clothes. I mean, I just don't you have a father who told you, put some clothes on? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. So he gets out there on stage and he does this old man rant and he pretends to care or pretends to act like these people. And this is a really big difference between Donald Trump and other politicians. Donald Trump actually cares and he's actually like you. These people just pretend to be like you. So I wonder how many of these Coachella members actually, like, I don't know what the word is, remembered what Bernie Sanders said the next morning, because these people were high out of their minds, stoned, drinking, I'm sure, and they didn't remember one word that Bernie Sanders probably said the next morning. Trump wins again, and I'm not tired of winning. Are you tired of winning? I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Bernie Sanders is a commie and he's appealing to his demographic. This is his target demographic. Yeah. These are low information voters who, the only reason why they go out and vote is because you have politicians who get out there on stage and convince them to go vote while they're high. People who are not naive, understand financial empowerment. These individuals obviously don't. All of them were financing their trip to this Coachella concert, which is just insanity to me. Don't go then. This is a need. This is not a need. This is a want. And if you are going to be financing this with interest, $1,000+ for a concert, I don't think any concert is worth that. I don't know who was performing at Coachella this year. Let me actually look that up. They don't usually have artists that I like ever. Yeah, I don't know any of these people. It's a music festival. Shabuzi. I'm looking Ty Dollar Sign. Maybe I know them. I don't listen to any Jimmy Eat the World. I'm looking at these. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know any of these artists at all. But I don't listen to this type of music either, so that's probably why. And I find it so interesting that a lot of this music is like cuss, or like their band names have cuss words in them. Yeah. I don't listen to any of that music. I just can't. So, and it's not for me. It's whatever. It's for my generation, but I just can't subscribe to it. We do want to talk about this before we take the break. Or when we come back from break, I want to talk about this city council declaring itself a trans, intersex, and gender diverse sanctuary city. I don't know what that really means. And I've told you multiple times that, that they say that there's like trans genocide going on, or that trans people don't have rights, or trans people are being attacked. Okay, I've told you this statistics multiple times. Homicide, transgender homicide, people who are trans and who happen to die by homicide, a lot of that is not because of, targeting because of their sexual orientation, like a hate crime. It's not because of that. It's because they are in occupations that result in their death. So what do I mean by that? They're prostitutes and their pimps kill them. Okay, ultimately, or they're involved in drug use and then they ultimately die from, a drug dealer getting angry and shooting them in the face or something like that. It's those types of occupations. It's a high risk occupation, as I would like to call it. I don't even really like to call it it's criminal activity. Okay, they're involved in criminal activity. When you're involved in criminal activity, then you're more apt to die. Okay, it's just the facts. Okay, nothing good happens after 8 o'clock at night. I'm telling you, that's what my mom's always said growing up. Nothing good happens after 8 o'clock. You just get to bed, right? Nothing good happens after dark, so get home before dark. But yeah, so it's just lunacy to suggest that there's some sort of attack on transgender people. When you look at the statistics, there is no hate crime. There is no homicide going on amongst the transgender community. Nobody's gunning down trans people. So I mean, I don't know what the point of all of this is. This was a city in Oregon. It's called Corvallis. Oregon City Council, they decided to ignore Trump's executive orders, and they passed resolutions affirming their commitment against against his executive orders. So they are committed to going against federal law, and they want to make their city a trans, intersex, and gender diverse sanctuary city. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'll be right back. Gosh, I am just really out of touch with my generation. I don't know. I didn't recognize a single artist from the lineup, the Coachella 2025 lineup. Before we took a break, I was telling you a little bit about Bernie Sanders. He made an appearance at Coachella. It couldn't have been more different than what Donald Trump did at the UFC fight. People were excited to see Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders, I mean, like, yes, he's a cranky old man, and he got out there on stage and started rambling about the oligarchy or whatever. And people were screaming, yeah, but they were also high out of their minds, likely. It's a Coachella concert, okay? And you know, he's going there and he's acting like he's one of us. He's not. Bernie Sanders is not one of us, and he tries to act like he is, and that's just goes to show you the he's just so inauthentic, and Donald Trump is authentic. Okay, so I want to get to this. The city council in Oregon, Corvallis, Oregon, they decided to ignore Donald Trump's executive orders. They passed a resolution to make them a trans, intersex, and gender diverse sanctuary city. I don't even really know what this means. Take a listen to this. Here we go.
A resolution declaring the city of Corvallis a trans, intersex, and gender diverse sanctuary city. Second.
My youngest child is non-binary, and we heard a lot tonight about some of the fear and what ridiculous actions being taken at the federal level and in other states across this country, and they're scared. So when this was first proposed to me, I first heard about this, I was like, yeah, let's do this. I think for me, it's an obvious next step in the city. We've always taken our sanctuary status seriously. At the last meeting, I reiterated that we're a sanctuary city that resides in a sanctuary state, and I will always support that. So I don't think we need to do a roll call vote on this. So let's just go ahead and vote. All in favor of the resolution as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
It was unanimously, by the way. Unanimously, the city council agreed to be a sanctuary city for trans, gender diverse. I don't know. Here's my problem with this. I don't understand. Really, this is just virtue signaling, okay? There is no attack on, like, a mass attack or a gunning down of transgender individuals. That's not happening in America. You look at the crime statistics, that's not at all happening. There's no hate crimes committed against transgender people. Like, statistically speaking, there's like 30 or something homicides against transgender people in the nation. Okay, 38, I think it was in 2024. And of those, a lot of those homicides stemmed from prostitution, drug-related offenses, you know, things like that, where they're in these occupations, drug dealing and prostituting themselves out. These are very dangerous occupations. And naturally, you're going to die from entering into criminal activity. That's just what happens a lot of the time. So there's not people out there who are causing physical violence against these individuals. So it's unclear why they're scared. You know, he claims that transgender people are scared. Why? Nobody's attacking you. Nobody has. Like, physically, I mean, I don't know, like, you mentally might be attacking yourself from within because you know deep down that you are not a transgender, or you are that you are your biological sex. And maybe that's why, there's this, like, they feel not right, or they feel like in danger because they're in danger of themselves and their mental state. And I don't think I need to remind you of the suicide statistic amongst this community, but this ordinance is just a way to virtue signal and to, like, say, oh, we're defying the federal government. Like, there's nothing really, like, they're just enshrining gender identity into law. And really what this does more, it does it at the expense of women's rights. Okay. And that's something that should never be condoned. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to, how exactly are you going to ensure protection and equality for women and men who identify as women? Because it's not really possible to ensure equal protection for both of them, because if you ensure equal protection for the man who identifies as a woman, you're inevitably going to trample all over the woman's rights. So I got to take a quick break, but we're going to wrap this story up on the other side. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Per the ordinance, this is what it says. I'll go ahead share it with you so you guys can read along. The city ordinance, or the city shall exercise its power to ensure equal protection, treatment, and representation of all persons without discrimination, including and not limited to citizenship status, color, familial status. This is bizarre. Gender identity or expression, marital status, mental disability, national origin, physical disability, race, religion, religious observation, sex, sexual orientation, or source or level of income. Okay, so this is just interesting because, like I said, how are they going to ensure equal protection for women and men who identify as women? Because inevitably, if you allow men into female bathrooms, you're going to trample all over the rights of women inevitably. So there can't be equal protection when you uplift certain groups over others. Not to mention, equal protection for citizenship status. So, like, despite your violations of the law, citizenship status, so if you illegally come to this country, we're going to treat you like somebody who didn't illegally come to this country. It's just ridiculous. So we're going to get to the rest of the story. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe today. I'll be right back. Don't miss it. Be sure to sail away with Cities 92.9 and Expedia Cruises tonight from 5 to 7, running errands. This is a cruise stop, so you can become a finalist. We're selecting 2 finalists to win a prize pack and qualify for a spot at our grand prize giveaway on June 26th at the new Smash House Tavern on Prospect Road in Bloomington. You got to be 21 years of age to register. We're going to draw 2 finalists at the errands, running errands on West Locust Street in Bloomington. After the first 30 minutes, so 5:30 p.m. tonight, we're going to draw our first finalist, and at the end of the broadcast, so we're going to be there for 2 hours from 5 to 7. At the end of the broadcast, we're going to draw another finalist. You got to be present to win. Found out all the details, cities99.com. Before we took the break, I was telling you about this Corvallis, Oregon City Council. They had just adopted this resolution unanimously to declare themselves a trans, intersex, and gender diverse sanctuary city. According to the ordinance, the city recognizes the surge in both targeted and federal legislation, threats, discrimination, physical violence against trans, intersex, and gender diverse communities. However, it's unclear what physical violence they're talking about. Like I said, I've got the statistics here. Nobody's out there cutting down transgender people because they're trans. Okay. That's not at all happening. There's no evidence to back up that claim that there's physical violence against transgender people. Okay. There's just no evidence. And these people pride themselves, they don't pride themselves on being factually correct, of course. Per the city ordinance, the city shall exercise its power to ensure equal protection, treatment, and representation of all people without discrimination, including and not limited to age, citizenship status, color, familial status, gender identity, expression, marital status, mental disability, national origin, physical disability, race, religion, religious observance, sex, sexual orientation, and source or level of income. Like, come on. These things target children. Okay, the trans ideology, they target children, and they do irreversible harm, puberty blockers, hormone therapies to children. And this city believes that they're on the right side of history, fighting for these trans Frankenstein procedures to be done to minors. And the worst civilizations in history would be looking at this and have their jaws drop. This is truly delusional. The last thing this ordinance does is respect the trans community. If you respect the trans community, you tell them the truth and be compassionate in that way, and tell them that, hey, it's not good to go through these irreversible procedures where you butcher your healthy body parts off. That is the morally, logically, and medically correct thing to do here in this situation with the trans community, is to tell them the truth. I love you enough to tell you the truth, my friend. All right, you guys have a blessed rest of your day. Bye-bye. Love you. Tomorrow, we'll be back at it bright and early, and be sure to find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back at it tomorrow, bright and early, 6 a.m. And don't forget, win a cruise with Cities 92.9 tonight at Running Errands in Bloomington.